You will become a SQL sorcerer following today's episode, where you will learn everything about self joins and even do an example walkthrough with me in SQL Server. To be sure, people will kneel before your technical prowess if you stick with me and level up your skill sets once again. A self join is a join between a table right back to itself. In this case, daily revenue. But why do we need self-joins? They seem strange and unnecessary. Shouldn't we only be joining different SQL tables to each other and not the same table? Well, here's an example. If you look at the highlighted record, if you want data before that record or after that record, you're going to need one of two things: either a SQL window function or a SQL self-join. You find yourself giving a presentation to the entire analytics department, and the executive team is sitting in the first few rows. Without understanding why, one of the executives stands up to leave your presentation. He gets back at you and he says that he was disappointed by the daily revenue chart. It was extremely choppy and didn't really give him a good idea of where the business was trending. He says, "Wouldn't this chart be better if you added a trailing 7-day daily revenue average?" And you respond, "Yes." Your goal now is to basically recreate this chart, but adding that blue trend line, which represents the average daily revenue over the last 7 days based on the current date. Surprise, surprise, folks, we're going to accomplish this in SQL using SQL Self Joins. Here is basically the revenue table. So it's revenue aggregated by day. And what we're going to do is create a new column that basically sums revenue across the trailing 7 records. So that'll be the current record and then the trailing 6 records. And then what we're going to do is divide that by 7 to basically get the trailing 7-day average, and then add that as a new trend line into the chart. To give you an illustration of what we're going to do in SQL Server, we have table A and table B. It's actually the same table, the daily revenue table, and we're going to be joining it to itself in a self join. It'll be a left join, but there's going to be some join logic in it, where the purchase date from the second table has to be less than or equal to the purchase date in the first table, which allows us to basically select the value from the current record. And then the second part of the join condition will allow us to return the trailing 6 records, so that we can sum the current record value with the trailing 6 values, and then just have revenue over the trailing 7 days summed and added to the current record per record in our output table. So let's do this now in SQL Server. So here's our revenue table. It's a very kind of simple table here. It's just 2 columns, purchase date and revenue. So we want to keep those 2 columns. And then we're going to do a left join right back to the same table, but we're going to re-alias this as B. The purchase date has to be less than or equal to. So when I add this b.revenue here, what that's going to do is it's actually going to return 7 records. The value from the current record and then a trailing 6 records. So what we're going to do is we actually want to aggregate this. So we're going to do that right here. And then again, if we just take this value and divide it by 7, we'll get exactly what we need. But we can actually bring that 7 value across from table B. So we're going to call this revenue 7. And then we can just take the b.purchase date and then just do a count here. Call this. And again, because this is an aggregation, we need to add a group by. And then let's just do an order by here. So just one word on an operation like this, right? So when you're taking a current record and you're trying to return trailing records, if it is the first record in that table, then there aren't going to be any trailing records, right? Or if it's the second record in the table, then there's only going to be one trailing record. So it's really important to remember that, and you'll kind of see this logic in action, because while we should be dividing by 7 every time, the first couple of records are 1, 2, 6, and then finally the rest of the records are 7. But all this represents is that it's a record and it's looking for records before it or trailing records, and there aren't many. So again, once you get deeper into the data set, it becomes 7 for all records. So this is basically the self join and the resulting data we need. Let's push this to Excel. Okay, so we are in Excel now. And if we just do a couple of clicks, we can get exactly what we need. And here is our beautiful chart, and it's got the smooth trailing 7-day average revenue as requested. If you like this content, continue to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. I hope this was helpful.